Okay. Yeah.
Chad's mom got one yesterday.
I got one for Christmas, and it automatically adjusts, and I do about 12,000 a day. Like I do about 5,000 before I leave here, and then if I go walk 4 miles in the afternoon, I get to like 12,000 a day.
Wow.
So I've been trying to be healthy this year. Well, we're going to talk today about the constructed response part of the GMAS, which is the new CRCT, or replaces CRCT. And what we're going to talk about is what exactly it is, what is constructed response, and then how can you help your children at home to answer constructed response when we take the test. Okay, so really what a constructed response is a performance task. And what we're asking students to do, instead of creating a product, we're asking them to create something written. So it's basically when we've asked them to create a model of something, but instead of doing a model, they're going to have to do a writing. And the way that we teach them to do it at school is we use this poster called RACE, which we have a small version of it that I thought that you could use at home with your students. And we teach them that the R means to restate the question. And we'll practice. We're going to play a game to practice that. Okay. And so first is R, restate the question. Then we answer the question in all of its parts. C, we cite evidence from the text, which means they have to go back to the story and pull information out of the story to answer the question. We try to get them not to use quotation marks. And then E is to write their explanation, explain what they actually pulled out of the passage or out of the text that they read. And if everybody wants to add another R at the end, this is one I found on the internet and it didn't have. So we also teach them that there's another R at the very bottom. So if you want to write R and then restate, and you want to write restate your opening sentence. I'm gonna give a couple of websites. Yeah, I'll give you two to go to. So we're going to play a little, since we talked about restating the question, what we're going to do is play a little game. And it's a game that I've gone in the classroom, and I haven't played this one with the kids, but I played a version of this with the kids before. It's called Quiz, Quiz, Trade. And it's more difficult than you think because you have a question, and when we restate the question, what we ask the students to do is if I were to ask you, what would you like for lunch today, a hamburger or a hot dog, they wouldn't be able to answer me just hamburger. They would have to say, for lunch today, I would like a hamburger. Because that's the way they want them to write their opening sentence on the test. Well, I was about to tell y'all that. They get too late to that. They get too late to that. Hey, if you want to sign in and just take one of everything, okay? Because this year the test has changed. And in math and reading this year, the first day will be reading, but it'll be reading and the ELA combined. Normally they took that on 2 separate days. So the first thing it'll be reading an ELA, and we call that selected response, where they'll choose A, B, C, or D, like they always have in the past. Day 2, they will have the questions, which constructed response, which we're talking about today. They'll have 2 brief constructed response and 1 extended, which means it has more than 1 part. So they'll have to answer. And math will be the same way. And next month we're going to talk about math.
Este año el examen cambió. Originalmente el examen era, una pregunta era A, B, C, D. Este año más me va a hacer todo escribiendo la oración.
But the kids are already learning that.
They're already learning it. But I wanted parents to have like, that's okay, you can do one if you want to. They were all filled. I'll have one back.
Si no olviden más escritura, contar, más sí, por eso el examen ya no va a ser yo solamente contestando porque tienes que analizar.
So the test this year will be the 2 days of reading, 2 days of math, a day of social studies, and a day of science. So testing this year, instead of being 5 days, will be 6 days. It's going to be longer so than it has been in the past. So the way we're going to play the game, and everybody will get a card, and then the way that we play this with the kids is I say, hands up, pair up, and you find a partner, and you ask your question to your partner. And I made this easy as I put your little prompt at the bottom. So if your question is, what is your favorite season, I gave you a little prompt at the bottom that your partner who's answering your question should say, my favorite season is. So if they don't say that, then you have to ask them to answer again. So, and so once both people have answered the question, then I say, hands up, pair up, and you ask it again. You ask it to a new partner, so you find a new partner. So, everybody ready to play? I try to cut them without. I try to cut 4 or 5 of them.
Por ejemplo, aquí, mire, aquí está una frase completa o es que esto es una pregunta. Y una respuesta que se quiere dice, en la película Frozen, ¿cuál es
Or we say study.
en vez de decir,
Oh, no, I'll take that.
Hammer turkey, no Thanksgiving. That was messed up. I thought that I did these better the second time. Your favorite football team? The golden egg. Okay, so stand up. I gotta get this moving today because it's too hot. They're actually gonna turn the air heat on. And so hands up, stand up, hands up, and find a partner, pair up.
Yeah, I saw that one, girl.
Okay. So ask your partners the question.
What's your favorite sport? What's your favorite? These are all. Are we done?
No, we're ready to play it a couple times over here. All right.
Si los niños no dicen eso completo, no se tiene que aceptar, tienen que decir la frase.
All right, ready? All right, hands up, hair up, trade partners.
What is your favorite season? Which do you prefer? Is that right? In Jack and the Beanstalk. What did Jack
What is your favorite
Beanstalk?
My favorite sport is football.
Why did Jack?
Oh, okay. What is it?
That's what I think I would read.
Yeah.
Get the goose. Get the goose that lays the golden egg. Yeah. The golden egg's the same thing. So she's gonna lay golden egg.
Just got golden eggs hanging out.
Right. So this is something we play with the kids, and it just keeps them moving around, and it keeps them, and it helps them think. Y'all can sit down. And what and you see, it's a little bit harder than you think, because you want to answer in that one word, like hot weather.
So if they don't answer the complete sentence, it will be wrong?
It's graded on a rubric, a scale, so they need to have complete sentences. They will look at spelling, whether or not they're going to be able to spell it correctly, or that they can read their spelling, read
What
their
do they
writing.
do about terrible penmanship, like,
They said penmanship can count too. So usually if kids probably have terrible penmanship, that might be somebody that we want to target to take it online. Because, you know, beginning this year, 30% of our students have to take the test online. So, I don't know how that's going to happen.
Y eso está en la computadora.
We had 36 kids in one, and the state could handle everybody online taking the test at the same time. They gave us a 1 hour window for everybody in the state online.
So they'll know that our child's been chosen to take it online?
Yeah. We'll know ahead of time. And it'll be a variety of kids. It won't just all be the reach kids, or all be, kids who have special needs. It won't be all of that. It'll be a mixture of those students. So we want to get a good variety of kids to take it online.
Are they practicing online, or is there somewhere we can practice online?
Somebody asked that question this morning. We said that really no, not right now, because the Miss Melinda in the lab is practicing keyboarding skills with them, because we feel like that's important for them to be able to answer the test online, because I think by the year 2016 or 2017, they'll be 100% online. Every child will have to take it online. So she's practicing with them and giving them keyboarding skills, because you don't get that you used to get that in 4th grade in Georgia. We did that in Coweta County, but we don't do that anymore. So she's been doing that in the lab, which we feel like will help. But other than that, there's really no site yet that gives them that positive reinforcement gains like they get with other things like Study Island or things that they're doing for CRCT practice, IXL Math or IXL Language. There's nothing out there that gives them, scores this automatically and gives them positive reinforcement. Okay. We're talking about online, like is there anywhere to practice online like they can with IXL Math and Language? And I was saying that no, there's not right now. I mean, there's resources where you can pull tests off, and which I'll give y'all today, and print them. But there's there's rubrics that you can look at, examples, but there's really nowhere that gives them that positive reinforcement of yes, your answer's right, or no, your answer's wrong. So, if you want to look at your packet that looks like this, the first page, the front and back of the first page, Martin Luther King and family, is an example of what they might see in kindergarten. And so, because they do this in kindergarten. So, starting last year. So, this is an example of what they might see in kindergarten. And the teacher would show them the picture, and she would ask them the questions and probably write their answer down, let them dictate their answers to her. So this isn't a kindergarten example of what they might see.
based on like your lexile level, or how does that?
Well, I don't think it's not based on the lexile. It's probably what I think that it'll be done is based on what they think their lexile should be at the end of whatever grade they're in. So it won't be based on what their actual lexile is. Like we say that 3rd graders should be 650 by the end of 3rd grade. So the test would probably be on probably a 450 to 650 level. So if you get that range of students. 5th graders should be at a 850. by the end of 5th grade. The 4th graders 750. That's what we've been told. So this is an example of 2nd grade, and 1st grade also looks like this, where they have two. This is, I couldn't find 1st grade, the ones that they put online, but this is what 2nd grade put online, where they're given 2 stories, and then they have to compare the 2 stories and talk about what is similar and what is different in those stories. So that, and they also, in 1st and 2nd grade, have been asked to fill out, in examples, fill out Venn diagrams, and sometimes a T-chart, where they have to pull out similarities and differences between the stories and then have to write about those.
Para primero y segundo grado debe dar historias diferentes y ellos tienen que buscar en qué se parecen, tengas el diagrama de cuál es la diferencia o de qué se
I think so.
parece.
I think that they changed the names of those banners.
Tienen que comparar
And they've taken away the writing test. So they don't have the writing test anymore in 3rd and 5th grade. So since they don't have that, they're putting the writing part in the test. And they're starting at 3rd grade. So they don't have that. One good thing is they don't have the pressure of that writing test anymore.
Por eso, pero ahí falta para el tuyo también trae ahí, o para ti,
Yeah, the next one, I probably going to be time. We haven't told people how much time they get. They get 140 minutes, I know, or in the past, they were given 140 minutes to do both sections of the reading. So I'm sure that they'll be given probably around 140 minutes to do day 1, the selected response, and then there'll probably be a time limit to do day 2.
But it'll be like this, not like.
They'll have lines, you know, of
I don't like
spaces.
the multiple choice stuff that has tricky answers. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah.
Like 2 answers could be right, and then, so if it's like this, they're just answering the question
Right.
in this.
And these are ones that the teachers came up with based on, you know, what we talked about this in November at our curriculum planning, and then in December they all had to have a homework assignment that they had to come up with and bring it. And I said, I have a homework assignment too, because this is what I'm doing with the parents in January. So I had to have my presentation ready to show them that, you know, I did this too. It wasn't you going out and me asking you to do this. So that was their homework assignment, was to come up with a constructed response based on what we had talked about in November. So theirs could be a little bit harder, or they could be a little bit easier than what. My guess is theirs might be a little bit harder, because they were probably going for the impression factor. So the next packet has 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade examples. And I will tell you the website where I got these so that you can go if you want to practice more, because there were a lot more examples. I'll give you all the website if you want to practice. All of the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade examples came from HTTP.
Is this our CPU?
And then like the colon, // backslash, I think it's a backslash. MDK12. I'll give it to you. .org. And then that backslash again. Assessment. ASSESSMENT. And there's another website too that has good questions. It's www.parcconline.org. Because Kentucky, and this actually came from the Maryland assessment. And Maryland and Park is New York. Maryland, New York, and Kentucky have been leading the way in coming up with their tests. Park, the New York test was ready, and the Kentucky test was ready a year ago. So they've been the ones that when we've been pulling resources to get the teachers to show the teachers how to help their students, that's where we've been going. It's to New York or Maryland's website. And Kentucky has also been ahead of the game. But these are our 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade examples, and the first page gives you the question, and then the second page gives you the reading passage that they need to read to answer the question. So the first one, follow that horse, is 3rd grade. So this is an example of what they might be asked to do in 3rd grade. This one's 3rd grade. Follow that horse.
Quinto grado.
This first, right?
Segundo.
Second. First and second.
Big grade.
Yes, second. It's the second. Get you. I keep forgetting they're getting older. So they might be asked to read Follow That Horse, and then go back and explain how information shows how Cuddles changed Dan's life. So to use race to answer that question, they would say, Cuddles changed Dan's life by, and then give their example from the story, and then give more examples. Cuddles changed, and I haven't read the story, but Cuddles changed, well, I think that Dan is blind. Cuddles changed Dan's life because he's able to give him, he's a trained guide for blind people. So Cuddles helps Dan by giving him sight. Okay?
So it has to be more than a one sentence answer.
Yeah. So if that were what they were talking about, they could say, Cuddles changed Dan's life by giving him sight, because Dan is blind. And then they would give examples of how Cuddles did that from the story. Cuddles is a trained guide horse. Okay, and then you would maybe give another example about, what Cuddles did. And at the very, Cuddles made sure that Dan stays safe, because that's in the story. And then at the end, when they did that second R after E, after they explained it, they would say, these are the ways that Cuddles changed Dan's life. So they restate what they said at the beginning. And that's harder than we think, isn't it?
Nervous.
You and me both.
Well, the good thing is this year is our baseline year. So this year, all of our test scores, this year is baseline. So every year after this year, we got to improve. So that's the good thing. So the next example, Brainy Birds, is the fourth grade example. That will be good for Julia. And it says, what other title, read the article Brainy Birds, and what other title would show the main idea of this article? Explain how your title would show the main idea. And in your response, use information from the article that supports your explanation. So they would have to go read Brainy Birds and come up with what do they think the main idea is, and what would be another main idea. And then give examples from this story about why that would be a good main idea. And then restate, this is why I think whatever, blank, whatever they chose, would be a good main idea for this story. Or title for this story. Because it's talking about ravens, I think. Ravens are one of the, so actually another title could be ravens. And they could say, another good title for this story would be ravens. And then they would give examples from the story about what shows ravens being smart birds. And then say, this is the reason why I think ravens would be another good title for the story. Usually we come back to school for a week, and then we give it the week after that. So it's usually 2 weeks after CRCT. But this year after spring break, I'm sorry. This year we have a 3-week testing window. So there's 3 weeks that we can give the test in, because it's going to be longer. And hopefully we're going to embed some breaks in between reading and math. Hopefully we won't. We don't know that for sure, because nobody's given us the testing schedule yet. But we're hoping that we give reading, give the reading day 1 and day 2, take a day off. This is what we hope for. Give math day 1, day 2, and then social studies science. So we're hoping that we give them a break between the reading and the math. Hope.
So when will we get the?
Monica has not gone to the testing meeting yet, Dr. Hughes, so once she goes to that meeting, we'll know. Usually it's like in February. And kindergarten, first, and second graders will take the SGA that they took at the beginning of the year. They'll take that while the 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders are testing. And then they'll also have constructive response in reading and math that they'll take at the end.
which what it does for kindergarten, first and second graders is it gives them extra points. It gives them for that growth, to show that 30% growth that they're supposed to show.
Tiene primero y segundo, va a tener segundo. Va a adelantar los exámenes, no como cuarto y quinto, pero va a adelantar que va a extra puntos a ellos de matemática, de bilingüe, de cuarto y quinto, pero él va a tener su propia respuesta y todo.
And then this is fifth grade. This is an example of fifth grade. A brick to cuddle up to. So it didn't print very well from the website. It looks like it cut off a little bit. But this one, they would read the article and they give them, read this sentence from paragraph 2, and it gives them a sentence, and then it asks them to explain whether the word clever is a good way to describe the ways colonists fought the cold. And then in response, use information from the passage that supports your answer. So they have to actually go back, find that sentence, or that, I think it's, yeah, find that sentence in paragraph 2, and use the information about the word clever to decide if that was a good word to use or not. So they would probably want to start there. I think the word clever is a good way to describe the colonists because, or I don't think the word clever is a good, whatever they think based on what they think. But make sure that they use clever being a good or bad way to describe the colonists. And then after they use all their information from the story, then go back at the end and say, this is the reason why I think clever is, or this is the reason why I think clever is not a good way to describe the colonists. So, but this is what I wanted to make sure I got in y'all's hands today. And I don't want to take up more than 30 or 40 minutes of your because I know you got other places to be. But these are just things I thought that would be helpful for you to take home and work on and give you the websites. And if you know, I'm always out front. If y'all need, if you have questions, if you go to that Maryland, MDK12 website, I think it's MDK12, the Maryland website has rubrics. And it shows exemplars. It shows good responses and bad responses. Like what would be a 4-point response and what would be a 1-point response. And 4-point would be the best and 1-point would be the worst. The first website, the MD. Indeed, just yeah.
You said the next month is math?
Next month is math.
What day is it on?
It's on, we're going to do next month on February, we're going to do the same thing as the parents one, because we figured most people would be here. And so we're going to do it at the same times, 8:30 and 1:30.
What day did you say?
February 13th, the same day as the parents function. We figured that was the best day, most people came, we didn't ask parents to come twice. So we're going to do math next month on February 13th, the same day as the parents function. So it'll be on a Friday instead of a Wednesday, a Thursday.
This website working for all the graders, and
third, fourth, and fifth. The second one, Park Online, works for all grade levels. This one works for all grade levels. And math is generally 3 parts. Questions. They'll have a question, and then part A, part B, and part C.
Do we know like how many questions are instructed response?
2 brief, 1 example for reading, and brief would be, these are all examples of brief, because you only have to answer basically 1 question. The ones that have part A and part B are the extended. And so reading and math will have 2 brief and 1 extended, so there'll be 3.
It's only math and reading, not science or something.
They're 13, no? They're 13?
13.
Okay.
8:30 and 1:30.
A las 8:30 a 1:30. Ustedes ponen una lista de anotación. Imagínate como ahorita para venir a almorzar con los niños, a las 9:30.
The Jenny's and stuff, because she told me that. And she told me to sign her in.